even if you only use the buyer's agent for the first purchase and learn from them and understand what they do, that can be really smart and understand how they navigate the market, ask lots of questions. A lot of property that we see sell doesn't actually hit the market, whether it's realestate.com domain or even sometimes their websites on the real estate exclusive website. One of the super most important things I think is really understanding the future of that market, what's going on and why you're buying there.
We believe every Australian deserves a right to own at the very least 5 investment properties. I'm Adrian Trimboli.
And I'm Frank Ambezi, and welcome to the Invest in You podcast.
Welcome to another episode, Insight into the Fresh Start family. Today, I'm very, very privileged to be bringing on Mr. Ryan, who's also a fellow Essendon supporter and now a golf buddy. Ryan, welcome, my friend.
Afternoon. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Looking forward to getting into it, mate. I'm going to fire away a few ones at you, but I think I'll start at what you're really renowned for at Fresh Start, which is having the best relationships with agents at Fresh Start. I mean, that's what I want to start with. I want to take the viewers and the listeners through some of the tips, some of the tricks, because you have plenty of them. And we're going to have an action-packed call today. Before that, though, if you don't mind, I probably did a very, very bad introduction of who you are and, you know, not just in property, but outside of Fresh Start. So if you want to give us like a 30-second little intro into who you are. Maybe try and do it better than what I did.
No worries. Obviously, Ryan, buyer's agent, been working with Fresh Start for how long now? Is it 18 months, I think, this month. So gone very quick. But I'm pretty addicted to all things property, spend all my time and all my day looking at property. Don't really leave my computer seat until I find a good deal. I hold myself to that. So that's pretty much me. Apart from that, Melbourne based, like some of the Fresh Start team. Don't really do too much, mate. Kind of stay home and focus on work, to be honest, which I find enjoyable. I don't really find it work. So
Awesome. Let's get into because you just said you don't leave your desk until you find a good deal. And then also, you are known for finding the best deals, getting the best deals. How is that done? And it is obviously done through relationships. So I guess if you want to explain a bit about that.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is treating real estate agents like they're human, right? I think a lot of buyer's agents out there, or people who aren't buyer's agents but looking to invest in property, you know, they pick up the phone and quiz real estate agents, you know, answer me this and answer me that, and kind of put the agent under pressure and really like a questionnaire and make it a bit uncomfortable and treat them a bit like a real estate agent, which is the last thing they want to be treated like. So I think for me, one of the biggest things is, as I said, remembering that we're dealing with humans, you know, understand them, ask questions. Relationships aren't built from one phone call or one chat. And for sure, I guess with the normal investor, you might only speak to these agents once, but if I'm talking about from a buyer's agent's point of view, you know, you're going to be dealing with these agents multiple times. So actually really understanding who they are, what they do outside of work, really test the waters, understand if they want to chat. Are they chatty? Are they the type of agent who don't want to deal with you and they want to speak for 30 seconds? How can you break that ice and build that relationship and build that consistently over time? You know, do they play golf on their weekend like we do, or are they any good at it like we aren't? You know, so really understanding those things about them and just treating them like humans, so they want to answer your phone call when you call them.
Yep. Silly question. What's the importance of that?
Yeah. Access to more stock is probably number one. A lot of property that we see sell doesn't actually hit the market, whether it's realestate.com domain or even sometimes their websites on the real estate exclusive website. A lot of these properties don't make it that far, especially in a hot market where it's going really, really well. And there is lots and lots of buyers agents and what we call mum and dad investors in the region. So we're actually getting access to those properties, which they might only have a small panel of people to give that to. So, there is pros and cons to buying off market, but there is a lot more pros for it. and it gives us the ability to get access to that. So that's super important. And then probably another one is, if you are putting an offer on a property that's quite competitive and they do have, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 offers that are all very similar, they might go into bat for you and say, look, I've dealt with Ryan or I've dealt with Fresh Start before. And, they're renowned for having really good, seamless process. All their clients get approved for finance because they make sure they are before they come to me. And they really push you to get your deal across the line, and not in a bad way that they're kind of going outside what they can and can't do, but more just giving them confidence and really pushing your deal.
Yep. I love it. You mentioned something very important there, right? In hot markets and also mum and dad investors. There's going to be a lot of people listening to this who are mum and dad investors who are not working with Fresh Start. Okay, so those of you who are working with Fresh Start, obviously you don't really need to worry too much about this, but those of you who are not, I want, Ryan, just 2 to 3 little quick tips or quick things to those investors who are out there on their own in a market that is hot and they've lost out on a few properties, 2, 3, 4 properties, however many times. 2 or 3 things that they can do to be ahead of the curve or be ahead of the rest of the pack.
Yeah. Good point you make. I would say definitely one being that relationship building, which we've touched on. So really getting to know your agent, understand the agent. Don't quiz them and challenge them and put them under the microscope and ask all the challenging questions. Have a conversation with them and understand, build rapport, and they're going to do the best for you that they can. So definitely super important. Stop trying to get a bargain. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make. I know that's a silly thing to say, but everyone goes, oh, I've seen 5 properties sell for 400, so I think I should go in at 380 and see if I can get a bargain. And they wonder why they miss out and they miss out and they miss out. And they've got to remember that if you're seeing value in a property, I can guarantee you that they're not the only human who sees the value in that property. So there's going to be other humans going for it as well. So, stop trying to just get an absolute bargain and lowball and get a $30,000 deal under market value, because it's just not going to happen unless you're very, very lucky. And by the time that you find one, the market's probably grown 10%. So that's not going to work out well. And then probably the other one is keeping in mind a bit of what I call the 2 to 3 month rule, which is when you're doing comparable sales, really understand that when they actually sold potentially could have been 60 to 90 days prior to the sale date. So if we're buying in regions that are going 10, 20% year on year, it's actually sold probably a quarter of a year ago. So it's probably had 3, 4, 5% growth in that 3 months. So you're going to have to pay more than what the comparables are most of the time, or at least similar. So definitely understand that as well. Otherwise, you're going to keep missing out.
Yep. And I think what we always say as well, I think you and I have some chuckles about this sometimes, is, if you're paying $20, $30, $40, $50,000 under market value, you're either buying in a shit area or a shit property, one or the other. Now, there's nothing wrong with shit properties. We like properties that need work, and you can buy those properties. But yeah, if you really think about it and make it as simple as possible, and you know this better than anyone, but something's going 40 or 50K under market, why would the vendor be selling the property for 40, 50K under market? That's as simple as you keep it. There's usually something wrong, but okay, cool. Ryan, you mentioned something about off market before. You said there's pros and cons. The pros outweigh the cons, and tell me about that.
Yeah, there's, like everything, there's pros and cons. I do personally believe that the pros can outweigh the cons depending on the situation, but more times than not. But I guess some of the big positives about buying off market is, the amount of people going for the property. How many people know about the property, the people you're competing against. The numbers are less. The less people you compete against, the better chance you got of purchasing the property. So they're the main pros. It's slower, it's less volatile. You have more time to think about it, more time to do your due diligence, more time to understand the property, more time to run the numbers, whatever it may be. You're going to have more time to think about it and have less competition. So that's a huge, huge plus when buying property. But there is cons. Sometimes an off-market sale, they might say, I want the absolute tip top of the market, otherwise I don't want to sell it. And you can waste your time because they have unrealistic expectations. And what it can do is, if someone hasn't gone and tested the market as a vendor, they think, well, I haven't even tested the market, so you're going to have to give me 500K, otherwise I don't want to sell it. So there is negatives. They're definitely there. But in my opinion, the pros are definitely more there on that side.
Cool. And it's not the be all end all though, is it? It's not. If it's off market, it's quality. You still need to run through the same due diligence. You still need to do all of that. Hey.
Yeah, for sure. And same again, like we're not getting properties $20,000, $30,000 under market value. So Even if it is off market, you're not going to get that. They understand the market. They're selling in a market. They're selling with an agent who is in the same market. So we all know roughly what these properties are going to be, give or take a couple of thousand to a price point. So whether it is off market or on market, you're probably not going to get a crazy big deal off market anyway. I'm happy to look at both, and at Fresh Start, we definitely focus on both.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to take a quick little turn. We constantly, maybe you might be biased here. I'm not sure. You might say, go out and try it on your own. But again, this is not to the clients of Fresh Start. This is to everyone else who's listening to this podcast. Why not do this yourself? So, and this is not for you to talk yourself up and talk what you do up, but a lot of people can buy property on their own. Now, I battle with a lot of people, and I try and understand if they can do this on their own. Obviously, you would as well, helping so many clients. But why would someone pay yourself to go and buy property for them when you can do it on your own? What is it that you see as the big value, the big ticket that you actually bring to the table?
Yeah, I think I could almost think of 100 reasons. I won't take up all your time, so we don't have time for that. But I'll tick off some of the big ticket items, which I would say is understanding the market and the region. So really understanding what's going on in that region, understanding that market specifically. A lot of people don't know. Someone told them that it's a good place to invest in, or they watched a YouTube video from someone who told them that it was a good place to invest in, or you can get 5.5% rental yields there, so it's a good investment area. So it's really understanding the market, the driving, the trends, why that market's going to drive, having confidence in what you're purchasing. I think we're able to help and hold our clients' hands and educate them on what's going on in that region. Even if you only use the buyer's agent for the first purchase and learn from them and understand what they do, that can be really smart, and understand how they navigate the market, ask lots of questions. That's one of the super most important things, I think, is really understanding the future of that market, what's going on and why you're buying there. Yes, you can get lucky and just buy a random property in there and do well. That definitely happens. But at the flip side, you can get it wrong. And that's where due diligence comes in. So I'd say that's probably one of the most important ones as well. And not due diligence just on location or anything like that. I more mean, is it in a flood zone? What's your insurance going to look like? Is there a local school nearby? Is there a hospital? How far to the airport? Is there a train station around the corner? All those things that you think that probably don't matter as much because it's an investment property certainly do matter. And there's 100 different bits of due diligence. We've got a 72-step process here at Fresh Start, and I could try and remember 50 or 60 of them and run you through them, but I won't. But there's just so much due diligence to take into note. And really at the end of the day is what you can do is you can start comparing apples and oranges by looking at comparable sales, and overpaying for something that you shouldn't. You're going to make your buyer's agent feedback just on that alone by understanding that. Locations is super important as well. Understanding, is there public housing in the region? How many renters are in this pocket? Because eventually the tide will change. I know we've got a housing crisis. I know that rentals are really hard to get, and the rental rates are incredibly low. The vacancy rate's below 1%, almost Australia-wide. Mm-hmm. That tide has to change one day. I don't know how it will and when it will. I don't have the crystal ball, but it will change. So you need to make sure that you're buying in regions that don't have high renters, because when that happens, there's going to be a flooded market of renters. You want to be around the owner occupiers and things like that. So yeah, there's so many different pieces that are super important that are going to save you money in the long run when you go to resell, because the market's going to be different in 20, 30, 40 years time when you sell. So you need to tick off as many of those things you can control now that will pop up later. So that's super important. And then probably the only other one is dealing with agents, negotiation, understanding how to negotiate. A lot of us think we're master negotiators, and some of us may be, but negotiating with real estate agents is a lot different to, what you're having for dinner. There's a lot more to negotiate on there, and understanding, what's wrong with the property or what's right with the property, and how to negotiate on that. Understanding agents, what they want to know, what they don't want to know, things like that. So there's so much there, but I think they're kind of the main ones I would touch on.
I love it. I actually always say, and I truly believe it, right? There's no sales pitch. I think you probably feel the same way. You will pay, whether you work with Fresh Start, and people have probably heard me say this, whether you work with Fresh Start or don't work with Fresh Start, you are going to be paying the fee of a buyer's agent one way or another. It's either going to be in longer time spent. So if it takes you 3-4 months to find a property, you're buying in a region that's growing 15-20% a year. There's the fee gone. You're going to pay more for the property, right? If it takes you 3-4 months compared to 1 month. whether you make a mistake and miss something, whether you don't select the best street in the house, whether all these things stack up, you're going to be paying the fee, in my opinion, tenfold if you don't use the right buyer's agent. I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's good.
As you mentioned before, 18 months you've been now with the team. You've obviously had a very impressive portfolio coming into us, joining us. You've expanded on that portfolio now, whilst being at Fresh Start in the last 18 months. I guess some of the big lessons in property you've taken away since being with Fresh Start in your own portfolio, helping clients build portfolios. Talk me through that if you could.
Yeah, there's plenty of things that come to mind. I think the one that makes a lot of sense is the old cliche is you don't know what you don't know. And I know once again that is very cliche, but it's a reality of it. Says it as it is. Like until you go out and start buying a lot more property in higher volume, there's some parts that you never come across or some things you run into that you've never had before, different situations. And coming to Fresh Start, I got to learn the Fresh Start 72-step process, which I alluded on before. I didn't have a 72-step process. I had about a 25-step process. So I've picked up an extra 50-odd steps that I take to find a property. And that 25 was, in my opinion, already 5 times the amount the average investor was doing. So there's been so much more due diligence when buying a property and so many small little factors that I didn't even know mattered that I learned when working with Fresh Start through both Fresh Start's kind of procedure and the way they do it. But not only that, but just buying, comfortably over 100 properties now with Fresh Start has got me the ability to learn that through so many different deals. So I think just the one thing would be you don't know what you don't know. And that probably can hurt a lot of people in the investment game is they kind of think they know everything, like I did, and it can definitely hurt you. And I think, some of us in the team probably thought that back when we made wrong decisions on when we purchased property. So we can all agree that that's probably a big one we all learned together and have got through.
Yep. I love it. I think you're right in saying, there's knowledge and there's power in just repetition. You going out and purchasing the amount of properties that you've purchased in the last 18 months. I don't know if every single time you're going to be learning something new, but, learning something about a particular contract and the way that it is particularly put together, you cannot be expected to know that if you've purchased, the portfolio you had with 4 properties, I think, when you came into Fresh Start. Those are the 4 properties you purchased. Now there are hundreds of times, and it's, no, you need to put this particular word in that particular part of there. And those things just stack up. Repetition is the way that you master anything, really. So I love it. My friend, I want to touch on your personal portfolio, and then I want to have one last question for the clients who are going to be watching this. But your personal portfolio, as I just alluded to before, you obviously came to Fresh Start with a pretty awesome portfolio, and then now you've added to that. If you don't mind sharing about your personal portfolio strategy, where you want to get the portfolio to, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think I always tell our clients, and we at Fresh Start tell our clients to always understand your end game. And I'm going to be contradicting here and say I don't really have an end game, even though we say that's one of the most important things. For myself and my part, our portfolios currently, I think about $2.6 million worth, which is, going really, really well. And I think my goal is to get to about that $5 million mark at an 80% LVR, so 20% ownership of each property, meaning that it's, a $5 million portfolio with $1 million worth of equity in there. So that's kind of my goal. At the moment, I have the freedom and the ability to keep buying properties as soon as I physically can. Things change. People go on holidays, people start families and all those things. So I think for me, I'm focusing more on the now and going, well, I've just got the ability to buy. Every time I save $1, I just put it back into property. So for me at the moment, it's just that rinse and repeat: buy a property, save a deposit, buy a property, save a deposit, pull equity, go again. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. And although I have a bit of an idea of an end goal around that $5 million portfolio, it's not really a ceiling for now. It's kind of just something to aim for.
Yeah. I think you and I share the same view of that, because I say I'm going to buy 3 or 4 more properties, But realistically, right, probably not. Probably just going to keep going and keep going and keep going until it, has an effect. But the problem with property, or the beauty of property, is sure, it might cost you day one, but the properties we're purchasing, by year 3, year 4, these properties are generating an income. So I'm hoping that I get to a point whereby I'm capped out from a cash flow point of view and it's affecting me. But the problem is that I'm probably not going to be at that case and end up getting paid. So anyway, it's not the worst problem to have. I think that's awesome. I think that's excellent. Mate, final one, and really the reason why this podcast was made is so that when clients get introduced to yourself, when you're announced as being their buyer's agent, it's for them to watch this. Okay, that is the reason why we made this podcast, and obviously to share it with the community, because there's been some bombs that you've dropped in here, which I think the rest of the community can benefit from. You've now worked with clients and they've purchased, I think, 3 properties with you over the last 18 months, which is perfect. What makes an awesome client buyer's agent relationship perfect? What makes it run really, really smooth? What makes it easy for you, easy for the client, and the best possible result, most importantly?
Yeah, probably like any relationship, I would say, is trust and honesty are the 2 big ones. Trust being that, they're coming to us and paying us for a service. So they need to have the ability to trust Fresh Start's process, but trust me as well as a person to know that I'm going out and working in their best interest. And when I say trust, I don't mean, everything Ryan says, let's just trust him and go with it. I certainly don't mean that at all. I'd love to be challenged. I think that's the most important part, that's where the honesty comes in. Hey, Ryan, I don't really, and I don't mean, hey, Ryan, I don't trust what you're saying, more just this doesn't make sense, or I'm not sure about this, and really challenge me, as you've probably seen on, our WhatsApp groups and feedback I've given you on clients, is that the ones that I get along with the best are the ones that challenge me and ask a lot of questions. And that's how we build the trust, because trust isn't just built from me having a phone call conversation with them for 15 minutes. It never is. Trust is built when they ask me challenging questions and I give them a reasonable response that's going to answer their questions, and they start to understand why I'm doing something. So challenging, asking questions, understanding each other. And for me to kind of gain trust as being, once again, touching back on that real estate agent relationship, is not treating them like a client and just talking about the numbers all the time and the property and how we're going to make the money, because ideally that's the main part, but understanding them, who they are as a person, what their end goal is, whether it's like mine, they don't really know where they're going to get to and how they're going to get there, but they just have a bit of a strategy to jump on with Fresh Start, or they want to build their owner occupier perfect home in a couple of years. Really understanding what the client does, understanding their so-called 10-year plan is super important to me. So I can understand, what they're wanting to get out of this, because that's super important for us to know as at Fresh Start, and for me to know about them. So there's a lot there, but the 2 main things are trust and honesty and being challenged. And I'll always challenge them. My clients will tell me, Ryan, I'm not sure about this white picket fence, or I don't like there's a tree out the front of the house, or whatever it may be. And I'll challenge them, why is that an issue? What are your thoughts on that? And I'll do everything I can to, try and get them the right answer and agree on things. Yeah.
I love it. Trust and honesty. Ryan, mate, I could talk to you for 3 hours, but there's a footy game coming up and we've got to go and watch it. So, mate, I just want to say thank you for the last 18 months. I'm looking forward to the next 18 months and any time after that. But it's been a pleasure having you on, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take care, guys. Have a beautiful day.